This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Welcome to the Human-Animal Connection Show, where we believe we can communicate with all animals. Join us as we explore the 33 principles and healing methods of the human-animal connection. As animal lovers, we know that you share our commitment to making the world a kinder place for all creatures. Together, let's embrace the transformative healing power of the human-animal connection.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Human-Animal Connection Show. I'm your host, Michael Overly, and I'm with the amazing, ever-present Jeannie Joseph. Jeannie, welcome back.
Thank you.
I am super, super excited about this one. When you mentioned it at the end of the last episode, I was like, yes.
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about one of our principles in the human-animal connection called the order of the senses. And what we mean by that is that when our senses are in order or in balance, we tend to feel peaceful and resilient. And when our senses get out of order for ourselves, we tend to feel easily stressed and triggered. It's like, so for example, dogs, if they're not stressed or traumatized, will experience the world nose first. They will smell you before anything else. That is their preferred method of encountering the world. And of course, they're going to hear and see and touch and taste and all that other stuff, but they're going nose first in a healthy, balanced animal for the most part. And in humans, we actually have an order for our senses that's unique to each of us. So some of us are more predominantly visual, meaning we really like to receive information through the eyes, and we like to see new things and go to new places and travel. And, visual stimulation is relaxing for people who are visually oriented. We all use our eyes, but some people really get great joy from what they see. Other people are very soothed by what they hear. And it works in both directions. You could be soothed or overstimulated. So for example, an auditory person, like I know, Michael, you're very auditory. If you get too much negative auditory stimulation, you're going to get stressed without even realizing it. So if there's just too much noise or too much competing sounds or too much negativity verbally, it's going to stress your nervous system. And so on a human level, it's good for us to understand what is our preferred modality, because let's say you have someone whose main way of getting calm is through touch. You give them a hug or a pat on the back and they feel instantly kind of safe and rejuvenated. But you have someone who doesn't respond as much to touch, and you go and you give them a slap on the back or a hug and they're like, ooh, it's like not as comfortable. So one of the things that I see with dogs working with, I work with shy and traumatized dogs in the shelter. I do some volunteering. And one of the things that I see is that in the shelter environment, there are so many scents and so many sounds and too much vision, meaning, think people walking by the kennels and just a lot of there's a lot of activity in the shelter. What happens is that their senses get overloaded, they get overwhelmed. And then what happens is they start protecting their primary sense. So the nose starts to shut down because the ears are overstimulated, the eyes are overstimulated, and they become very, very reactive. So any sound triggers them, they startle, and any vision, they jump and leap at the person coming to the door, and everything gets all messed up. And when the dog has been really seriously stressed, they stop using their nose, and they're not even orienting with their nose as much as they could be. So to help them recalm their nervous system and reclaim the correct order of their senses, I want to use ways to stimulate their nose first. So I'm going to go into that kennel with some stinky treats in my pouch. And I'm not necessarily going to move towards them because that would trigger the visual response, or not necessarily going to talk to them because that will trigger the auditory response. I'm going to be as still as I can. And this is, I'm talking about working with very shy and disturbed dogs, dogs that have had trauma. I'm going to get down low. I'm going to sit, and I'm going to be literally as still as a statue. And what happens is, as I decrease, and I'm not looking at them, I'm not going to give them any eye contact. I'm just going to sit. And what happens is, because I'm not giving them a lot of visual motion to pay attention to and interpret, I'm not giving them my voice at this point, they begin to pay attention to the juicy, stinky hot dog in my pouch, the delicious treat or the chicken or whatever I brought with me that day, and they begin to go, so they start paying attention to, what do I smell like? And of course, in Arizona, we're sweating a lot. So there's nice, delicious sweat that they get to also experience. They enjoy that. That's polite in dog world to stink a little. Makes you familiar. Even if a dog is barking and being insane in the kennel before I go in, I'll turn my back to them, my butt to them, let them sniff. That's very polite. I know it's weird in human world, but that's dog goes, oh, okay, I know who she is now. Or not, even if they don't know me, they just feel like they understand me because I've offered scent. It's very, very polite and respectful thing to do in dog world. So then what happens, I'm sitting in the kennel now with this dog and they're feeling the scent. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just very slowly, I'm going to take one of those treats out and toss it near them, not at them, like not towards them, but to the left or to the right. And then what happens is they're really oriented to the scent now. It's closer. They're sniffing. Now they have to move a little to get it. And I'm just talking to, even just if it's a very scared dog, I'm just talking about stretching their head. I'm not going to ask them to move much. But as they get comfortable, I'm going to toss it just a little further, meaning closer to me and where they're going to actually have to move. Once I get them moving, then we're moving in the right direction. And pretty soon they're eating out of my hand. And that builds trust, builds the bond, builds a sense of safety. And now I've got them very oriented towards their nose. So they're still looking at me. Now I can add in my voice. Maybe I might try to see how that is, depending upon if they initiate touch, meaning if they come to me and lean against me, then I'm going to give them some touch, but I would never give them touch until they have given me a sign that they're ready for touch. So I'm watching for the signs, and the signs are that they initiate touch, that they come and lean or get into my lap or something along those lines, or position themselves in a way that they'll let me know where they want to be touched and for how long, because I'm watching to see, does the dog turn away at a certain point, and then I'll stop touching. And if the dog turns back to me, yeah, that means, okay, continue. But if the dog doesn't, that means they've had enough touch for that cycle. So that's how it all begins. So in an ideal world for dogs, they are using all of their senses, but nose has a kind of primacy, and too much stimulation in the shelter environment, when they're hearing too much and seeing too much, those senses get overstimulated, which triggers them. So now the slightest movement gets them accelerated in their intensity or their fear. And we want to keep them out of that excited state, that negative excitement, because that's not good for them. What happens is they actually get adrenaline and cortisol running too much, and then they don't know how to settle themselves. They don't know how to self-soothe. So you mentioned Lulu, the dog we're fostering from the shelter right now. She's in the corner as we're talking, that little patch of fur over there, that's Lulu. And she's learned to self-soothe now. It used to be she had to be literally touching me the first week. She had to be against me or whatever. And now she can be near me and relax and sleep and rest. And that's fantastic, because that's a new stage. This was Lulu, we've talked about her before. She was called a purple dot dog in our shelter system, which means not good. Only staff could walk her, and very excited when the staff walked her. They had to walk her with 3 leashes on her, different harness and all kinds of things. So she was a wild thing, and she still has her she's still a rambunctious little spirit, but she has also learned how to self-soothe when she needs to. So it used to be like on week 2, she could sleep near me, but it had to be under the desk, or when I'm eating, she'd be under the table. So she had to still have that proximity. And now she's a couple feet away from me and still very relaxed. And she's starting to be able to be in a different room. That's just beginning to happen. Yay.
That's huge.
It is. Yeah, it is. And I just love this notion of the order of the senses, because working with dogs, getting their noses back online, you see it happens very fast. I mean, within maybe 15 minutes or something, I can get a dog really changing their state and getting cured. Not all dogs. Some dogs will take longer. I've had dogs that won't take treats for 2 or 3 visits. Those are very severely traumatized dogs. But it's amazing how fast we can get them back online. And with humans, like yourself, if you find yourself overstimulated auditorily, if you get yourself where you can take a quiet walk, or, not have to engage on a verbal level for a little while, or listen to some music, that can help you resettle your nervous system very quickly. And someone who's very visual, if they go take a walk out in nature. Now, of course, when you're taking a walk out in nature, you're getting visual and you're getting smell, also touch, different things. But the predominant sensation for you will be the quiet of nature. So it might, the birds are singing, the wind is blowing, whatever, but it's not the words that are overstimulating for you. And so that's a very relaxing thing. So knowing your primary sense and then knowing what causes you to get overstressed and knowing what the antidote is to that. So for example, extroverts who really enjoy being with people and engaging, if they get stressed, it really helps them to go to a bar or to a place where there's a lot of noise, a lot of people, a lot of things to see and talk and engage. Introvert, that would be deadly. After a stressful day, they need to go take a shower, take a walk, read a book, do some exercise alone. They need solo time. They need to reduce the amount of sensory input from people. So understanding your own nervous system can help you manage your stress levels in a lot of situations.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's important to note that there's no right or wrong.
Right, exactly.
Right. So
right.
People just have different preferences and different needs. And it's up to each of us to decide what that is for us.
Exactly. Like some people, if just like another person on the couch, that's enough to help them feel safe and calm and grounded and secure. Another person, that's too close. They want, want you to be in the same room or the same house, but not next to me. And so everybody's a little different in terms of what are the sensory elements that either bring balance or cause stress. And stress comes from imbalance or overstimulation or understimulation. Actually, both can work both ways, but the improper stimulation for the person. And as you mentioned, everybody's a little bit different, a little bit unique. So you have to kind of soul search. And what would you say your partner, Dana, what is her style predominantly?
So noise doesn't bother her. Like you could, just blow up the house behind her and she just kind of brush her hair off.
Right.
Flying embers.
Yeah.
She's very visual.
Okay.
Like she can have a laptop open, tablet, and a book, and she's going back and forth between them. And I'm like,
right.
But yeah, for her that works.
Exactly right. Somebody who's very auditory sensitive, having the TV on or whatever can be kind of unsettling if they're not watching it. Just the amount of noise. And yes, me too. Yeah. And somebody who's very visual, like just things being out of place, like a coffee cup left on a table or a napkin on the table is really annoying, and the rest of us like, what? It does not make any noise. Why is it bothering you?
Yeah. Well, but my mom calls that visual noise.
Visual noise,
because she's meticulous, right? Everything has a place, and that's not it. So yeah, something's not where it's supposed to be, or if it's
crooked.
It needs to be straight because that's visually disturbing.
Right. Yeah, my grandmother was an interior decorator, and I remember one day, I forget, I think a young teenager or something, and we were in my grandparents' house, and my grandfather said to me, "Fix that pillow." Like he was on his recliner, and there was a pillow across the room, and it had a little pattern, and it was just a little cockeyed, like it was just we're talking 2 inches cockeyed, right? And he said, "Fix that pillow," and I went and I fixed it, and I said, "Does that feel better?" It was clear that this, it made a major change in his state, you know what I mean? Just to have that pillow in the right, I didn't even notice it. I would have, I was like, I had to really look at it to see what he was talking about. I was like, what is it? I think I had to say, what is it? Because it's crooked. And I couldn't see that, because I wasn't oriented that way. I wasn't that visual. And people can change too. Like I've become more visual, like things that never used to bother me being out of place now bother me. So things change. We're human, we change, but it's good to know what's important to you, because it helps if you're sharing a workspace or a living space with another being, or like Lulu, our dog that we were talking about, she has a terrible proprioceptive sense, meaning sense of her body. So she will be in the way of the other dogs, or she'll be too close to the other dogs, or she'll be in my way, or she'll be in front of the refrigerator. She's always kind of in the way. It's just, she's lacking a little bit of body sense, of other beings. She's just in her body. She doesn't have a sense of other bodies. And Sophia, my little dog, has been kind of pushed around a little bit by her. This has not been so easy for poor little Sophia. But the other day, she was, because Lulu will block the door out to the backyard. So Lulu will stand. I guess it's parallel to the door so that you can't get out, right? She's blocking the whole exit. And Sophia went under her for the first time. And I thought, yes, because Lulu's like oblivious. I don't think it's deliberate. It's not to be mean or anything. It's just Lulu doesn't have an awareness. Oh, you want to be here? You want to go there? So her body sense is all jangled up. And we had a professional. I'm a dog trainer, but it's always good to invite another professional to observe this. And she was just staggered by how Lulu would just kind of sit on me or just always against me. And, she's kind of moving out of that phase. And this is a 56-pound dog. So we're not talking about a little thing, little lap purse dog, So when she sits on you, it's an event. So she was kind of shocked by how much Lulu didn't pay attention to kind of going like this, pushing my arm, adjusting my space. And so I'm trying to work on it a little bit more, but it's clear that Lulu has some issues with this. And we're hoping to get her ready to be adopted because she's a magnificent dog, but we got a ways to go.
Yeah, she'll be fine. You guys are doing great with her.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So, I want to give you a quote by John Burroughs, and then we'll take a break.
Okay.
He said, "I go to nature to be soothed and healed and to have my senses put in order." Nice. Yeah. So we'll take a little break and see you on the other end.
See you soon.
Hey friends, if you like what you're hearing and want to learn more, check out Dr. Joseph's book, The Human-Animal Connection, Deepening Relationships with Animals and Ourselves. Or visit the website, thehumananimalconnection.org, to book an online consultation. Thank you for loving animals. Now back to the show.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Hey, folks, thanks for coming back. Thanks for sticking with us. And we are so excited. We're talking about the order of the senses. And I am just so excited about this whole topic because of my own experiences. And I'd love to share that with you if we can.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, in fact, I had a client and were very experienced dog people. They bred dogs, Basenjis, yeah, and they loved their dogs and everything. But walks were like, they always felt like walks were a fight. So I was working with them. I said, okay, what happens? And they were saying, well, the dog always wants to stop and sniff. And they had been told by other trainers that you have to dominate the walk and you have to show who's boss and you decide when you stop and when you stop and all this old-fashioned way of taking a walk, which meant walks were a constant struggle. And who wants to go for a struggle walk? It's not fun. And I explained to them that when dogs stop and sniff, they are literally resetting their whole nervous system. They are tuning out everything else, all of their senses. Like they're still hearing and seeing, but their whole focus is on what am I smelling? And that organizes their senses. And when we talked about putting their senses in order, so stopping and sniffing is the best thing a dog can do for their well-being on a walk. Now, it doesn't mean that every walk has to be stop and sniff, but what I used to say is at least one of my walks with Sophia has to be a stop and sniff walk, meaning we don't have to go anywhere. We don't have to accomplish anything. If she stops, I stop. And if she stops and sniffs, I just want to become oriented to the clouds or the trees or whatever, or look at what she's looking at, or just get into my senses, just be present too. I'm not necessarily going to get down on all fours and sniff, but I want to just be aware of, okay, here we are at this tree, or here's this moment, or this is a spot she often stops at. Isn't that interesting? And all that other stuff, it's so good for a dog to have the freedom to stop and sniff when they need to. And there are times that I'm in a hurry and, we have to go my way and we don't do the stop and sniff. But like I said, it's so important. And the wonderful thing for those of you who have backyards, I know not everybody does, but if you do, this is fabulous. You'll watch your dog just enjoying they'll trot for a little while and stop and sniff and trot and sniff and trot and sniff. And you just see, and they're so happy when they can choose to stop and sniff whenever they need to. So tell me about Indigo and your experience of sniffing and what that did for you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was working with her diligently. I had worked with more than a couple of dogs myself, but I wasn't able to get through to her in some of these ways. And we'd gone through a couple of different trainers, and a woman who's wiser than me said, "Have you ever done any scent work with her?"
Yeah.
And I said, "No."
Mm-hmm.
She said, "Well, you might want to try, because you see her pass a car sometimes when you're walking, and she'll sweep the vehicle like she was trained to as a military or police dog, which she actually wasn't, but she just naturally does this thing."
Yeah.
So I started doing scent work with her, and
Wonderful.
her activating that part of her brain
Yes.
discharged so much for her, and she could just go, "Oh."
Yeah.
Right, and helped her become so much more calm and present. Like, even when we feed her now, it has to be it doesn't have to be, but we use game devices to help her with feeding, so she can just become so focused on that.
Yes.
But the scent work was massive for her.
Yes.
So I started integrating that more into my walks, where we would do, first walk, she could go whatever direction she wanted. She could sniff whatever she wanted. And I would just tailor it to take a certain amount of time. But that made a big difference for her. And I realized I was allowing her and giving her the ability to make decisions and choose for herself.
Exactly. Which in itself is healing. When a dog, so often dogs are at our mercy, at the mercy of our choices, what we decide. And that is the nature of, human civilization. We have to have dogs on leashes and so on. But whenever we can, if we can give them elements of choice, like I mentioned, being out in the yard where they can choose their pace, their direction, when to stop and sniff, when to lay down and look, when to run, those are all going to help reset. And scent work, if people are, probably our listeners are familiar, but just to let people know, it's doing like, you can hide treats and have them find them. Or there are all different ways that you can work with it, but basically they're all games that involve the dog using their nose to find something. And I think all dogs, it's great if all dogs can have at least a little scent training. It's like Michael was saying, it just really helps reset their nervous system to put their nose first and to feel the accomplishment of finding that wonderful treat. And, there are classes in scent work that some people do. Even a little bit of it is good. Like Sophia is not a particularly, I put her in a scent dog class, and we took this class. And what was interesting, she has a lot of good skills. So she was the best of the class at the beginning, because the other dogs were like, "I don't know what we're doing here. I don't care about this." They were all like scatterbrained, but they were bigger dogs and they had great noses. And Sophia was like, she'd do it. She'd find the treat, but it was like, it just wasn't her thing. But it still was good for her just to have that celebration of finding something, and they get a treat when they find the scent. So it's a fun game. So I really encourage people to do a little scent work on their own, or take a class, or read about it, or whatever, because it helps to put the senses in order, helps the dog lead with their nose, helps them feel a sense of accomplishment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This leads perfectly into, I think, what we're talking about next, when dogs' emotional states.
Yeah. So when they're using their nose, they're in a pretty balanced state. They're pretty happy. Of course, if you're talking about a dog that's trained for search and rescue, there might be an excitation in finding that scent or whatever. But for the most part, as long as it's a fun game, they are happy campers. So if your dog is bored, just leaving some treats hidden in that they can find. You have to remember where they are, but usually they'll find them. It's pretty good. It's pretty good to help them get into a balanced state, putting their nose first, feeling a sense of accomplishment. It's fun, just like children hide and seek. It has a certain pleasure to succeed at the task. Yeah. So if you've got a dog that's nervous or stressed, and you can give them a little bit of focus on their nose, it's a really good thing. It's a really good thing.
Yeah. That helped Indigo when we're around other dogs. The faster she can get her nose back to the ground,
right,
the more calm she is.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can drop a treat on the ground. You take stinky treats with you on that walk, and there's another dog coming in. You could say, "Okay, I know that's going to be a trigger. So you know what? Throw a treat a little ways on the ground where she has to move a little to get it, or it's a little hidden, that's great. That can manage that whole situation, getting her, oh my God, a treat. That it's like a positive focus. It's like when we're doing something that we really love, we're like in the zone, whether for some people that's going to be cooking or working on their motorcycle or whatever it is for you that gets all of your senses kind of oriented. This is what it is for a dog when you give them something stinky to focus on. And, there's the people version of this is like, let's say you identify, do you listen to music a lot, Michael, to calm down or? Yeah. So like you're a very auditory person. So just putting on some music that's really pleasing to you in that moment will help you get into a really soothed state. And for Dana, maybe, getting that stimulation of the computer, the laptop, the book all at once, going back and forth, that's going to be relaxing for her. That puts her brain in focus. And for us, it might be like, too sensory overload. It's too much at once. But for her, it might be just what she needs to get a kind of, because it's all about balancing the charge. If we're too low, if we're too bored, we're not happy. If we're too stressed and excited, we're not happy. It's that sort of middle ground where we have just the right amount of stimulation. Like if we, the music that you love is going to make you feel calm, but if we turned on 3 different television stations on 3 different channels at the same time, you'd be like stressed out, right? It wouldn't be good for you. So it's about understanding your own nervous system, what it is that causes you to feel this peace of mind. So a walk out in nature is very healing. And I know not everybody has nature right outside their door. So you do what you can. But if you have a beautiful picture of nature on your wall and you're a visual person, just taking a moment to let your eyes go soft while you look at that picture, that can be very healing. So we call that resource orientation. And we're using the resources around us that pertain to our sensory system. So for some people, that might be taking a bubble bath, I mean, it could be anything. It's really a good thing to understand your own system so that when you get a little stressed or a little tired or a little just overcooked, you go to one of your resources that addresses your lead sensory system and brings that into balance. So I hope people will be inspired to do either some scent work or to understand, value, and appreciate the purpose of a sniff walk, and to recognize that when dogs are sniffing, they're happy, and we should be happy too for them. So hopefully that will create less stress on walks with people who were trained in the old model of thinking that you had to, that if a dog stopped and sniffed, they were being disobedient or not respecting you or all that nonsense. So let all that go and just enjoy the fact that the dog is going, wow, here's something delicious to sniff. I'm going to just sniff it.
Yeah. You want to really get them excited? Take them somewhere they've never been before.
Yeah. So there's all new scents, right? Right. So depending upon your dog's desire for newness or sameness, if your dog really gets a lot of benefit from newness, a new place can be thrilling. For a dog that's not so ready for that, like Lulu, it's about really keeping her world very small until she decompresses. So next episode, we are going to talk about changing your relationship to time and how that works with people and animals.
Ooh, that's going to be good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we'll see you next time. We'll say aloha for now. And thank you, Michael.
Aloha for now. Thanks, Jeannie.
Thank you for tuning in to the Human Animal Connection Show. Please visit our website, thehumananimalconnection.org. There you can sign up for our free email newsletter, book a consultation, or check out our blogs and resources. Our best-selling book, The Human Animal Connection, is available on Amazon, and your donation of any amount keeps our nonprofit organization providing life-changing services. You can reach Michael Overly, author of Let Your Dog Lead, Musings on How to Create an Exceptional Life, on his website at dogsandmen.com, or email michael@dogsandmen.com.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.